welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, I'm going to be doing part 4 to the very popular story, which is titled, I'm Getting Married in 2 Weeks and I'm Totally Screwed. And guys, this part 4 here is quite a doozy. There's no other way to describe it. In part 3, the guy mentioned that he had a confrontation with his wife and sister-in-law, and a lot of things went down that involved the police. But the guy was pretty worn out, he needed some rest, and he assured us in part 4 he would let us know great detail what was going on. He most certainly did not let us down. Now, since obviously you guys have been following the story, you know what's going on. I'm not going to do a recap. If you want to follow, if you're new, you want to find out what's going on, go back and watch parts 1, 2, and 3. It'll prepare you for this one because this is the best one. So he continues on in his adventure. He says here, "Hi, it's me again. I want to thank everyone who sent me kind messages and support here on Reddit, and even on the other platforms." I guess he's talking to me. "This is really blowing up, and frankly, it's totally bizarre to see my personal life plastered all over the internet. But it's also nice to see that so many people seem to be genuinely concerned for me. We're here for you, brother." It helps a lot. At first, I had a bit of trepidation about how visible this became, like what have I done? But since the past weekend, I decided to just roll with it. After all, the cat is already out of the bag, and I really believe I've done nothing wrong here, despite a small minority of commentators saying otherwise. Well, bro, you can never make everybody happy. Trust me, I know. You did the right thing. Nobody here with any level of common sense would see you in the wrong. So you're in the right. I guess there's a lot to go over here, and so much has happened. Most of it, if I'm honest, hasn't been that great. Well, it's actually been downright shitty, but I will get to that. For people who are just following along, the link to my original post is here, blah, blah, blah. I'm reading his thing. He says, "First off, I left Mark's house pretty late that night." Mark is would be his soon-to-be brother-in-law. Sarah already knew I was out discussing business with him, although she had no idea that the business was actually her sister's affair. But still, it was getting into an unreasonable hour, mostly because I was trying to get up the nerve to go home and face her. After about 2 or 3 pep talks from Mark, I finally got off my keister and texted Sarah I was coming home and left in my car. As I said in the last update, I was pretty surprised when I got there because I walked in the house and Evelyn was crying on the couch with Sarah. Evelyn is Sarah's sister who was covering for her affair and all that. Evelyn is a little a-hole, and so is Sarah. They're both a-holes. I hadn't seen Evelyn's car in the driveway when I came home, so this was probably the last thing that I was expecting. I froze for a moment and almost turned around and left. This was not how I imagined this was going to go down, and I knew that Evelyn's presence was going to make a bad situation a million times worse. Still, I had a timetable that I wanted to move on. I had friends I needed to notify and wedding preparations to cancel, and the proverbial clock was ticking on the back of my head. When I entered the room, both Sarah and Evan looked up at me in acknowledgement, but the tirade of accusations never came. I just stared back, raising my eyes in question. The moment passed and Evelyn went back to crying. Remember, this is the girl who's been cheating on her husband and little daughter for a while now, and she's crying her eyes out because obviously the brother-in-law had evidence and confronted her. Boo-hoo. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. Sarah went back to comforting, and I let it awkwardly hang in the air for half a minute while I thought. It seemed that Marty hadn't mentioned my assistance in the uncovering of Evelyn's affair. I decided to play dumb, not for any reason other than I wanted to see how Sarah reacted. I took a seat in the recliner, put down my laptop bag, and took my phone out of my pocket. I made it look like I was fidgeting with it and then asked what's going on. Evelyn just continued to cry, but Sarah looked at me and said, "Marty is divorcing Evie." Aw, poor baby. She's cheating on this dude left and right, and she's crying because he's divorcing her. What does she expect him to do? Just be like, "Oh, thank you for cheating on me, honey." Well, yes, I figured as much. I decided to push ahead with the obvious question. "What for?" I asked her. Sarah stopped patting Evelyn's back for a moment and looked at me. I could almost see her face twist and contort. Imagine the look of a 5-year-old makes when you tell them to eat their broccoli or finish their lima beans. Yeah, you're the bad guy here. Evelyn shot Sarah a look that I didn't need to be a sister to understand, and there was a pregnant pause until Sarah finally said she cheated on him. Now, I have to admit, the response freaking floored me. This is absolutely not what I was expecting. Sure, the more cynical readers here might think, well, the cat is out of the bag, so there's no point in hiding it. And yes, that's true. But it's also true that she could have just as easily feigned ignorance or even worded it in another way, like Marty accused Evie of cheating, instead of basically confirming it to my face. Maybe I'm being pedantic here, but it's part of my job to pay attention to not only what people say, but how they say it. I think 70% of all communication is body language, and I think the other 20% is, I guess, the tone in which people say it, and 10% is the actual words that people say in terms of communication. 70% body language, 20% tone of voice, and then 10% what they actually say. I think that's the rough estimates. Evelyn wasn't very happy about this. She kind of crumpled into the couch a bit and did the strange combination of a sigh and a sob at the same time. I wanted to press on, go for the gold, to so to speak, but I must have stammered a bit. Sarah probably interpreted it as shock, and well, she would have been right in the sense, just not how she assumed. Did you know? Sarah didn't say anything. She just nodded, her hand still rubbing her sister's shoulder. I didn't hesitate and asked for the obvious follow-up. How long? The answer came back a lot easier than I would have thought. 6 months. This dude's fiancée, who's less than 2 weeks away from being scheduled to marry, has known her sister's been effing some other dude for 6 months, covering for, not just aware of her sister's cheating, but full on helping her make it happen. I was shocked by how easily she admitted to it. Evelyn was shocked as well. She smacked her sister's hand off her, and I think even Sarah was a little shocked at saying it out loud. I leaned back in the recliner and rubbed my face. Time to tug the rest of the Band-Aid clear off. And he says to Sarah, "We're not getting married." There were 2 looks like stunned goats and a chorus of, "Huh? What?" from both sisters. I stood up and repeated myself, "We're not getting married. I can't marry someone who would cover up adultery, especially not for 6 months." Good for you, brother. Sarah sprang off the couch and opened her arms. The body language was, "You can't be serious." But I just put my hands in front of me. I'm serious. I don't like this, not one bit. I don't like that you took part in this, and I can't get married to you with how I feel. It would be a mistake. You're damn right it'd be a mistake, and I made that abundantly clear in parts 1, 2, and 3. You can't marry someone that does this thing, because I guarantee you, if she hasn't cheated on you already, or isn't cheating on you now, one day she probably will when her needs aren't being met, and then she'll have her sister cover for her, and this is normal to her. The waterworks started immediately. Shocker. And even Evelyn did that thing with her mouth that looks like the perch trying to suck air. There were wails from Sarah, accusations of not loving her, appeals to my sense of duty, to the loss of money, and the inconvenience to all her friends. The embarrassment of it all. That's the big part with her. It's not because she's in love with you and all that, it's because of the embarrassment of it. And I might add, I believe she's really close to being 30 years old, so she's going to have to start over to find a guy. And we know that big 30 is a big deal. It was frankly nothing I hadn't already thought about, but it definitely felt different hearing Sarah say it through body-racking sobs. It was at this point I probably made a big mistake. Well, maybe not, because I have no idea how long Marty would have kept my involvement in everything off the books. But in an effort to convince Sarah of the finality of it all, I said, "Look, I already canceled the honeymoon. It's not happening." I knew it was a bomb the second it left my mouth, and the explosion was damn near immediate. Evelyn, to her credit, had always been pretty quick on the uptake, which is probably how she managed to fool her husband for so long. I could almost see the realization dawning on her when she put it all together with my appearance at the bar earlier in the evening. She screamed, "You son of a bitch!" and flew across the room at me. Now, I'm not a huge guy, but I'm no slouch either. But the force that Evelyn flung herself at me had me staggering backwards, and I barely had enough time to get my hands up before she started raking my face with her fingernails. Oh my God. Remember, she's the one that's been cheating for 6 months, and you're the bad guy, and she is assaulting you in your house, scratching your face with her fingernails. Really? I almost lost the phone I still had in my hand, but still managed to push her away and say very loudly, "Evelyn, get off me. Sarah, get your sister under control." Evelyn made another lunge for me, but surprisingly, Sarah did exactly what I asked her to do and wrapped her arms around her sister's waist and held her in place. I looked at Evelyn and yelled, "Get out of here right now or I'm calling the cops," holding my phone up for emphasis. Sarah asked both of us to calm down, and she said to me, she doesn't have anywhere to go right now, and Marty took her car keys. She can check into the fucking Comfort Inn, okay? I love these stories. People are like, they have nowhere to go. I'm assuming they have a credit card. They can check into a local hotel or motel, for goodness sake. Or try Airbnb. Doesn't have anywhere to go right now, and Marty took her car keys. That explained the lack of the car in the driveway, but I didn't care. I was 100% through with Evelyn. I was going to make sure she knew it. Dude, she attacked you in your house. Of course you can throw her out. I marched into my home office and locked the door and dialed the police. I told him I'd been attacked by my fiance's sister, and I locked myself in my office, that I was bleeding from my face. He says, your Evelyn has scratched me pretty good along the inside of my left eye. Oh my God. Can you imagine if she actually got your eye? You'd be wearing a freaking eye patch like Nick Fury. And then my vision was blurry and I feared for my life. I even told them I had recorded the entire altercation on my phone. Dude, you're the GOAT. Recording that on the phone? Just as I was finishing up my conversation, Sarah comes knocking on the door. Please come out. We need to talk about this. And please, I love you. She wants to apologize. Bullshit. She's not sorry and she doesn't want to apologize. I'm pretty sure that the last one was a lie, but Sarah's obviously losing her shit. I didn't answer her and her attempts to try to get me out of the office, and it ended probably right when the police rocked up to the front door. I could hear Sarah talking to them, and I decided to come out. The cops were two males. One of them looked younger than me, maybe around Sarah's age, and the other one looked older and more annoyed about life in general. Sounds like an older cop, yes. I introduced myself, pointing at Evelyn, stating that she attacked me and offered to show the cops the recording I made. The younger one asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I said yes. He asked me again if I wanted to press charges, and I said yes again. What's the problem here? You have hard of hearing, officer? I said yes the first time. Sounds like someone has a soft spot for a young crying woman. This wouldn't surprise me, the youth, the younger guys this generation. At this point, both cops looked at each other, and before the young cop could open his mouth again, I said, yes, damn it, I want to press charges. I have video evidence, and this is going to go to court, or else I'm going to call up your boss. He says I dropped his name here, and asked him to come down and do it himself. I think they were pretty surprised I knew his name. Not that we were friends or anything, but given my line of work, I spent plenty of time interacting with local law enforcement, and I have met most of the brass. I talked to them on the phone and a couple times in the last few years. He says, honestly, at this point, I was getting pretty hot under the collar, and while I got what these guys were thinking, I don't agree with it all. Facts are facts. Sure, I might not be bleeding out on the floor, but Evelyn assaulted me in my own home, and I wanted her gone. What's the problem here? We all know darn well this is bullshit, and if the situation was reversed, and it was a woman saying that a guy attacked her, this dude would be in cuffs on the ground with their knees on his back and probably tasered or something at this point. Thankfully, the situation didn't immediately escalate, and the two officers handcuffed Evelyn and put her in the back of the patrol car. Please tell me you recorded that one. She was squealing and crying like some sort of gibbering maniac the entire time. Sarah wasn't much better either. She just kept going, no, please, no, over and over again. At this point, the younger cop circled back and asked us if everything was okay here. I just told him I was going to bed. He asked Sarah again, and she didn't immediately answer. So he goes, is everything okay here, ma'am? Again, this young fucking cop that wants to... Naturally, he's going to assume the guy's the bad guy here. I made it clear what he was fishing for. At this point, I really disliked the guy, but I bit my lip. Sarah finally realized that the cop was addressing her, and she just nodded at him. Obviously, the guy is not satisfied with this and starts to ask her again, at which point I interject and say, if you want to go on a fishing expedition, you might want to do it over there on the lawn where my doorbell camera isn't recording you. Yeah, I'm sure you love that. I think at this point, I had pushed my luck with this guy one too many times. But what could I do? I think it was probably about 30 seconds from getting the cuffs slapped on me until his partner came up and basically pulled him away. I think the senior cop is just like, God damn it, I want to go to Dunkin' Donuts. All right, enough of this bullshit. I want to retire. He was an older man, probably in his late 50s. That's what I thought. And probably didn't want to process 2 arrests right after the beginning of his shift, especially when one of them was obviously going to be more trouble than it's worth. I'm even sure he talked him out of it, and they left, carrying Evelyn away and hopefully out of my life forever. So guys, that is the end of this part 4 video here. This is a very long one, otherwise I'd be going on forever. So, but don't worry. I know you're all yelling at me now. I'll be doing the next part very quickly in a couple hours to finishing this whole segment up. And let me tell you, we're just getting started here. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below and think about this. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.